Stand up right now. Okay. Scan the room. Scan the room right now. Scan the room. Scan the room. Scan the room, Blakemore. Scan the room. Zoe, get right here. Get right here. Scan the room. Scan the room. Put it on YouTube. We're getting ready to make this go viral. This is Chicago. This is Chicago City Council. This is how they show up. This is how they ignore the citizens. This is how they break the law. And then they want to turn around and make like we are wrong for not supporting the Democratic Party. But this is what the Democratic Party looks like in the city of Chicago, doing public speaking. They don't show up for a quarrel. They on their cell phones. That's Desmond Yancey right there, who's trying to sell out South Shore to super low income condos to make the city look like the projects. Okay? Now you got Conway. You said Conway or Conway? Conway over there on his laptop because he ain't worried about a thing. He a rich white boy, okay? And then you got Taliaferro and you got Cardona right there, okay? I'm hoping that they paying attention. Taliaferro, I want my rights protected with my case. I trusted you and some other people, and I believe that you're trying to do the right thing. But you are in a corrupt situation. Get that light bulb head, Richard Rodriguez. See, looking like a Chucky doll. See how he has no respect for the citizens. Y'all want to be famous? Y'all want to be famous? Let's make them famous. There go Raymond Lopez right there, okay? He's trying to read so he can pay attention to what's coming up. There's Quinn right there. He all right, he paying attention. Pat Downs is right there. She looking up there. Maybe she'll pay attention, maybe she won't. Richard Rodriguez, y'all zoom in on that clown. Zoom in on that clown. He's the most disrespectful individual that you've ever seen. Now he's gonna stand up. Oh, he looking at his boy Tommy, like what? What, you need to co-sign that he's a knucklehead?
Yeah. So, who you all are seeing right now, hold on, let me pull both of us up. Who you are seeing right now, this is Miss Jessica Jackson, okay? And let me tell you, you talk about a fireball in Chicago making waves and calling out all corrupt public officials that do not have the best interests of the people at heart. She is the number one. And as you can see, she's very outspoken. She don't care who the audience is. She don't care who she's talking to. She's just standing on truth. And I, for one, appreciate that. I had the pleasure of speaking with Ms. Jessica Jackson on stage with Rod Blagojevich at this event that we just did over the past week. And met her. And every time I talk to her, me and her been talking on the phone, you know, and she inspires me because she don't hold back. And she's saying what's real and bringing issues that most people aren't aware of to the table and putting everybody on notice like this is what's going on. So without further ado, Miss Jessica Jackson, talk to the people. Say hey.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. Well, almost good afternoon now. It's a very, very good pleasure, great pleasure to be here with Cash and to have this conversation and to participate in this live right now and to get the word out. You know, like you said, we met on a platform for the Conservative Caucus on January 30th. Mm-hmm. And you were a speaker and I was a speaker. And what we both had in common is that we're looking at things to be different through from the Democratic Party and hope for some change to be seen through the Republican Party. But at the end of the day, the discussion of what's going on in the Black community needs to be had. So let's have that conversation, Cash.
I'm with it. So, you know, me and you just had a long conversation before we even jumped on and decided to do this live. It wasn't a planned live. We were just like, you know what? This conversation we have, it needs to be said in front of everybody. And then the caption, you know, of this live of what I put is why the Black community needs to really hear Trump out. You know, they need to hear Trump out a little bit because for me, like you were saying, you touched on some things. Well, first off, when we first started talking, she said that, was it Mark sent you the video that I did? Black Lives Matter, but when the Black Lives gonna matter to us? John Anthony sent it. Shout out to John Anthony. Shout out to John Anthony. Black and White Radio. You guys go and give him a follow, man. This brother's phenomenal. He puts things out there just like we do, just on a bigger level. My man is nationally syndicated. So Amazing. Shout out to John Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
But that video, when I made it, I was hitting on a lot of the truths that people at that time wasn't trying to stand up and say on a public platform, right? And me, I was like, you know what? I'm tired of it. The same way you tired, right? Of the way that really we get used. If you want to be technical, we are, what, in the words of Malcolm X, we are political chumps. We're political pawns. We get used in this game, and once we serve our purpose of being used by the party that's been using us, which is the Democrat Party, they throw us away and don't do anything for us, right? And we see it in our streets. We see the way things is going in our own streets. And because people like you and people like myself, John Anthony, Danielle, Zoe, when we come out and we start speaking these things, P. Ray, you know, everybody that comes out, John, everybody that comes out and says anything, if you black and you say any of the things that we say pertaining to the community of maybe we should start to think about listening to Trump and the Republican Party just a little bit more, hear them out and see what they are offering to do to help change the conditions of our cities like Chicago, like Detroit, like New York, well, then we're demons. We're demons. We ain't right. Y'all betrayed your people. That is, and it's like, no, we care about our people. This is the whole reason why we're even taking the time to try to hear any of this, to try to use our voice for any of this stuff because of these things that are going on. You pointed out something about these judges, these corrupt judges, especially when it comes to, like you were saying, the civil courts, the civil judges. So explain to the people a little bit about that.
Well, the position that I like to take with that is when you talk about change, when you talk about correction, when you talk about making things right, what I learned through the process of dealing with my mother's probate estate, which is the issue that if you ever hear me talking in City Hall, that's the nature of why I'm at City Hall, because I learned through the probate process of how Cook County / the city of Chicago literally steals real estate. In this instance, is bequeath property that you inherit, that they straight up stealing our property. Now, how is that happening? Through a civil process, not a criminal process. The judicial system is made of two branches. It's the criminal courts and the civil courts. There's a lot of conversation about criminal courts. It always has been, because criminal courts is like an issue, like one of those issues, let's say like homelessness, an issue that's going to always be political talking points, because it's always going to be seen as an ill of society, something to pull on the heartstrings of society. But at the same time, it's a problem that seems to never be able to go away, never get remedied. It's just a good talking point for political reasons. The same thing is with the criminal court system. The corruption of it, the disproportionate amounts in racial incarceration and mass incarcerations, those are good political talking points for politicians. But remedies never occur. And we keep the focus on the criminal courts, when the reality is less than a third of Black people actually go to criminal court. Just like less than a third of society overall goes into the criminal courts. But everybody, for one reason or another, is going to end up in a civil court proceeding. You're going to end up in bankruptcy court or traffic court, child support court. In this case, probate court, eviction court. All those processes are civil processes. So when you get in these processes and they're corrupt, that causes economic harm. See, economic harm, that's a civil process is how, like in my case, they can try to take your real estate. That's a civil process. That's taking your generational wealth. That's economic harm. Or a civil process can force you to pay money, damages that you don't owe.
Yeah.
If it's a corrupt judge or incompetent,
which is rampant right now, especially in Chicago.
Right, it's happening. How else could public corruption even exist? Okay, and then it's a civil proceeding that stops you from getting money owed. Look how many people are old. Like in my case, I'm old damage. It's because of the violations of my constitutional rights, that 14th Amendment that guarantees me what? Due process for the protection of my life and property, my rights. Right now, they're violating my rights to property.
That's real. And that's a
That's
shame.
real. And that's a civil process. You understand? They're violating my rights when they violating my mother's will, violating the probate laws, violating the Illinois civil procedures in court. And the judges are allowing it. If the judge does not enforce the laws, what does it matter what the probate laws say? What does it matter what even the Constitution says? What does it matter if the judge does not implement the law? If the judge does not uphold it?
Which is what he's supposed to do. He's sworn an oath to uphold these things.
He took an oath to solemnly swear to uphold the United States Constitution because that's the law of the land. Every law is derived from the Constitution.
So let me ask you, you brought this situation before the city council. You talked to the Brandon Johnson directly. What was their response to any of these things?
They're not doing anything about it. They're not doing. I took it to. I'm always before Brandon Johnson. I'm not just at City Hall. We show up in the Cook County Commissioner Board meetings. We go to the Public Building Commissioner meetings. We go to the Community Development meetings. We go to all, wherever the meetings are, we're there. We're around him in several meetings. He doesn't do anything to stop it. And neither does Tony Preckwinkle, neither does Chief Timothy Evans. And why? Because of what we're talking about. It's the Democratic Party's goals. The Democratic Party does not support individual ownership. They support corporate owning stuff. That's why they're putting up all these different high rises all over the place. They support government owning. This is why Brandon Johnson is trying to do like city-owned grocery stores here and stuff like that. That's why he's ushering in what looks like and what's similar to what looks like a socialist agenda.
Facts.
You understand
100%.
what I'm saying? Right.
I get it all day long. You know why? He's getting paid. That's why. And it's been pointed out multiple times about all the money that this man's been making hand over fist and potentially, I would say even laundering. I mean, I'm allegedly, in my opinion.
But we're not gonna say that is no truth to those things based on some of the things that Elon Musk is discovering in his short investigations that he's conducting. We're not going to say that that's not the truth, but I'm going to anchor it in more of what you hear Donald Trump saying. And that is, we have too many people in leadership now who don't love America. See, Brandon Johnson is that type of quote unquote revolutionaryist person. You know, those revolutionaries who are against the government, who against America in this capitalist way, and they hook up with those white liberals.
Mm-hmm.
See, and it's that revolutionary type mindset that you see going on with him.
Yeah, 100%. You know, he got it. I don't think you heard this. I don't think you've heard this clip. I want to play it because when I heard it, see, I know the waves that y'all been making through the city. I know all about them. And I feel like this brother was referring to y'all when he made this little statement. So let me pull this up real quick.
Okay.
I get the frustration of our people. I am our people.
Yeah.
It's why I ran, right, for office. You know, when I taught in Cabrini Green, USA, and schools were closed over there, and the danger that our children were placed in because the city did not provide real consideration of how we invest in children. And I've watched Black women who overwhelmingly have borne the brunt of these privatization schemes that have harmed our public accommodations. I'm very clear about that. And, you know, here's what I say to people. This city was not destroyed overnight. And repairing it is going to take more time. And so we cannot allow the noise as well as I'm just going to be very direct here.
Please do.
The individuals who ran this city in the ground, they want it back. And they will sow seeds of doubt and fear in order to take it back from us. Right now, we have the blackest administration in the history of Chicago. My budget director is a black woman. Chief operations is a black man. My senior advisor is a black man. Our deputy mayor for economic and neighborhood development, a black woman. Our deputy mayor for infrastructure, a black woman. Policy director, a black woman. You see the theme here? My wife, a black woman. Yeah. And I say that to say is that I'm sitting our vice mayor, first time in the history of Chicago, the vice mayor is black. All of our major committees, finance, budget, rules, black folks. We hired almost 28,000 young people for summer jobs. It's a 32% increase. The top 10 neighborhoods where black folks live in is where young people were hired from. Those individuals got jobs and checks. They're filling that right now. Homicides are down, shootings are down, robberies are down, vehicular hijacking is down, sexual assaults are down, $20 billion of new investment that's come to the city of Chicago. Community college registrant, it's up 11, 12%. The number one subgroup that's enrolling in community colleges are black young men. We are in the process right now working something out with Malcolm X to build a satellite campus that solely is dedicated to the trades. So the young black men and women who are enrolling in community colleges can benefit from the $20 billion of investments that are already here or that are on their way. The people who have destroyed this city, they know exactly what I'm doing. And you know why they're afraid? Because they know that I know that they know that I know.
He said a whole lot of nothing, right? He gave some, my bad, let me get this right. He gave some statistics that I got to fact check. Number one, if that is true, great that you're doing that thing. But you notice he hit on all the key points. He tried to hit on, the black women, and he tried to hit on the black people and all the things that he's doing for black people. And he got the blackest administration. I feel that that's irrelevant. Number one, right? When you sit up here and say all that, because it sounds like he's pro-black community, right? Like he's trying to help the black community. But I feel that it's disingenuous because you've taken the taxpayer dollars of the Chicago residents and funded people that are not from America to live in hotels. They shut down schools and schools that have been abandoned and opened them schools up to house illegal immigrants while you have a whole bunch of homeless people, vets and otherwise, black and otherwise, on the streets, and you have done nothing for them. You've taken, I've seen one report where he was stuck on stage when they brought it before him. In one sitting, $30,000. $30,000 for his hair and nails. How the hell do you justify $30,000? And he said, well, I was supporting black-owned businesses. Come on, brother. That's not, we don't need you to take $30,000 to support black-owned businesses, which is a barbershop. It's cool that you want to support black-owned businesses, but do it on your own dime. Don't do it on the taxpayers, because essentially you're not helping that black-owned business by taking their own money and act like you're doing something good for the people. Use your own dollar to do that. But then simultaneously, you have no answer to the $150 million that was supposed to go to the Chicago residents to uplift their communities, to help make their communities safer, whatever you were going to use it for the residents of Chicago, and bypass them and give it straight to these immigrants. And this is public knowledge now. This is all over. But you sit up here and act like you're some type of hero. And then you want to down. See, what I thought he was talking about y'all was when he says you got some people trying to make some noise, right? And then he switches over to talk. I'm going to be direct here, and talks about the people that want to take back Chicago. Well, take back Chicago from who? Of course, we know the destruction of Chicago and where it's at right now didn't start right now. It's been happening under Democratic leadership. That's the fact. It's been happening underneath Democratic leadership. You point to any city in America that is Democrat ran, it's going to have a higher crime rate. It's going to have a higher incarceration rate, especially of black people. It's going to have a poor education rate. It's going to have way more illegal immigration. And then the corrupt thing about it all is that this is the way I feel. Any mayor that gets elected in Chicago was elected through fraud. That's my opinion. Simply because they allow illegals to vote. We all know this. In Chicago, they allow illegals to vote in the elections. They don't require ID. They don't do a check on who it is that's voting. No, your ballot gets counted if you put it in the box. Plain and simple. So it's corrupt. So what we're hearing right now is a corrupt politician who had all these promises, says he wasn't going to raise your guys' taxes, but then went ahead and raised everybody's taxes. You called him out on that, actually, in front of his face. It's disgusting. What's your take?
No, everything that you said is 100% right. Look, I'm encouraging the people of Chicago to go with what they already know to be true. And what they know to be true is when you go outside and look at your community, you know that it's true, that those empty lots are there and they've been there. You know that it's true that those abandoned buildings and abandoned businesses are there and they've been there. And you know that it's true that this city has been, just like what he pointed out, black top heavy in leadership for many years. Correct. So with that being said, why would you continue to vote for them? Mm-hmm. I encourage everybody to look at what he said. If he's saying he made all this money, monetary investment in black neighborhoods for the black community, then I'm going to need black people to step forward and show the fruits of that.
Facts.
Show what, right. Identify exactly what he's talking about. Because me as a black person that lives in South Shore, which is a very black neighborhood, and it's been a very black neighborhood for many years. And my family has been in this building and owned this building for 62 years. I'm going to need to be able to go outside my door, walk to the corner, and I'd be able to identify where the results are of all this money that he's claiming that he put in the south side of Chicago. Mm-hmm. In the black neighborhoods, because if South Shore didn't see it, I can guarantee you no black neighborhood on the south side saw it. I can guarantee you that.
I can tell you where it went because I've seen it in real time. Shout out Tribe Is, my man Tribe Is. I don't know if you know him. This brother, he been putting him on blast as well. I'm gonna connect you guys because this brother's he's fantastic too. He was out there showing the houses that used to be in Roseland, right? The houses that used to be vacant, that was owned by the city. Right? They took them houses and gave them to illegals. They gave them houses to illegals. They housed them. They fed them. They gave them every single thing. While these was abandoned houses. Why can't you, if you can do that, why can't you do that for the citizens and the residents of Chicago?
Why can't you do that? Why can't you do that? You know, let's bring it in even closer. You said that you thought that he might be talking about us. Okay, let's say that he is. It's a piss poor testament as a mayor that you could have the same citizens come down to City Hall on a regular basis now for over 2 years, talking about their property, their real estate, that they having an issue with the courts of Cook County. Your property is in the city of Chicago, and you're coming to him for 2 years, asking for assistance, asking for help, asking for him to deal with this issue, and you haven't. Mm-hmm. But yet you got this same city $1 billion in debt because you and Governor Pritzker and all those aldermen down there saw that it was so important to make sure that a bunch of people who wasn't from this country, who never put a dime in this country, that they have somewhere to live. Mm-hmm. I mean, you want everybody to believe that you are so benevolent, you are so humanitarian, you are so for the residents of Chicago and the citizens of this city, that you are willing to go all out, all the way to the point of now you ending up in front of the United States Congress fighting for them. But you got a citizen like me, like Zoe, that's coming to where you are. Every city council meeting, went there for every committee meeting with the top people of all those names that he named, all those black women in position that he named, all those black men in positions that he named, and none of them were able to rectify me and Zoe's problem. None of them. None of them. Let me tell you how deep it is. Let me tell you how deep it is.
Let me give you the flow.
On
Go ahead.
September 19, 2024, Alderman Greg Mitchell, who is my actual alderman for this ward, the 7th Ward, Alderman Chris Talaferro, who is an alderman now. He's the alderman that's for that part of the west side where that Munson Field House big old protest took place like last year to keep the illegals out of there. That's the alderman for over there. But he's also an attorney, and he had asked me when he heard me speaking at the mic about my property when I first started coming down there, like, if there's anything that I could do to help you, you know, I'll try to help you. Okay, so it was Greg Mitchell, Alderman Greg Mitchell, Alderman Talaferro, Commissioner Bill Laurie, Cook County Commissioner Bill Laurie, and his chief of staff, Lamont Williams. Now, on September 19, 2024, they hold a meeting with the public administrators to quote unquote resolve my issue. Come on, and all them black, all 4 of those public officials I named was black. They had a meeting. They called a meeting with the public administrators. Leah Jubakowski, clearly she's not black. Louis Apostle, he's white. And Thomas Lienweber, he's white. They met with them, showed them the fraudulent documents that they had signed with their name on it that proved that they illegally put my mother's estate into public administration. They showed them the document that they signed, that Leah Jubakowski was in that meeting, identified her name on that fraudulent document. And do you know nothing happened to them people? Do you know that those white public administrators got up, walked on, went on about their business, and in fact, after that, engaged in more bad acts? All the way to the point of trying to get me illegally evicted out of property that's paid for. This property been paid for since I was 15 years old, and I am now 62 years old. When my mother died, she didn't owe anybody not 1 red cent, not 1 red cent. No credit cards, no medical bills, no none of that. 100% paved the way for her children to inherit her assets. And here comes Illinois, Cook County, with a law that says even if you have a will, even if there's no debt, even if everything is paid for, if real estate is in that estate, it has to go through probate. And that's how Cook County get their hand on your stuff. And I'm telling you, in my case, that's airtight. I'm telling you, no, there are no loopholes. No, didn't nobody take out a loan and didn't nobody know. And that, no, none of that, none of that, none of that is straight up Cook County thieving. Stealing black people's property. Things that's something they've been doing for decades. And here it is with 4 black male politicians, 2 aldermen and 2 members of Cook County Commissioner Board, had those white public administrators in a meeting, showed them the documents that were fraudulent with their name on it. They didn't do nothing to them people.
Nope. And you know what's even more sad?
Come on.
Is you hear this Brother Johnson talk about the blackest administration in Chicago, that they got the blackest administration. So this isn't a thing of, oh, the white folks is doing this to the black folks. No, this is the Democrat. And this is what we're trying to explain to people when we talk to them. It's not about white, black. This is about a party. This is about a party. The Democratic Party does not care about your color. They don't care if they look like you. They only use that to their advantage to get in office. That's it, to get your vote so they could get in office and they can become rich and create generational wealth for themselves and their family and their people. They don't consider you, me, you, anybody as their people. And you're only really useful around election time. That's it. After election time, nigga, be quiet. That's what
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something, Cash. Again, we're down there all the time. Okay, you got 50 aldermen. in City Hall. All 50 of them are Democrats. There are no Republican aldermen. There are no Republican Cook County commissioners. They are all Democrats. Be crystal clear on what I'm saying. Then your governor is a Democrat. Your mayor is a Democrat. Every judge in my case, and because they so corrupt, they just switch up judges like it's musical chairs. When they want to do a bad act, this judge will step out and bring this judge in. Then after they pull their bad act, then this judge will return back to the bench until they want to do another bad act. Then they'll put in another judge. And you got to keep in mind, in these civil proceedings, let's go. In these civil proceedings, there are what? No stenographers. Come on. There are no stenographers in that probate process. And I understand there are no stenographers in eviction court. I think there are no stenographers in divorce court. So now what you're looking at is there's no official record of what is happening in those proceedings. So there is no written transcript.
So it's your word against theirs.
Right. That can actually keep a record of what actually happened in that proceeding. Who said what? When did they say it? And without a stenographer, without a written transcript, there's no remedy. There's no fair way to resolve an issue. It keeps your word against the judge's word.
You know,
you understand what I'm saying?
I 100% understand what you're saying. And I got a theory in my mind that just literally just came to me right now, right? When we talk about like the blackest cities, when we talk about, say, Detroit, we talk about Chicago, we talk about DC, right?
St. Louis.
St. Louis, right? All these Democratic ran cities that are majority black cities, right? How is it that the city can stay in the condition that it's in if black people have so much voting power in the city? And then it goes into these things.
Much leadership.
Yeah, and so much leadership. But here's the thing. When you look at, say, Republican ran cities that are not a majority black, yet black people have a better quality of life in these cities because their public officials are doing what's best for the people. Well, then it leads me to believe that it's not the fact of a city like Chicago or any of the blacker cities that we're talking about having, ignorance of just not caring about who they vote for, because there's a lot of educated people that I know in Chicago. There's a lot of educated voters in Chicago. And you can't understand it, especially when I go out there and talk to people and they all say that they, in the federal election, they were voting for Trump as president and that they were sick of the mayor. A lot of people are sick of the mayor in Chicago, yet you don't see any change. You went from Lori Lightfoot to Brandon Johnson, who was just Lori Lightfoot as a male. You know what I'm saying? And the crazy part is, again, it goes back to how the elections are ran. They have to fix the voting process in Chicago. I feel like that's the reason why we ain't seeing no change, especially in these Democrat cities like Chicago, because they allow people to vote that are not from this country. They're voting in their best interests. When we talk about the 20 million people that came across the border illegally, right? Imagine all 20 million of them, which is half, a little less than half of the entire black population in America, all concentrated in a couple cities in America, which would essentially take away the voting power from the black people of the blacker cities. Does that make sense?
I mean, I think that that's absolutely true. And I think that that was a strategy. However, when you look at the fact that in spite of the fact that they allowed people without IDs to vote in the election, and you still see that even though they allowed that, still Trump won. Okay, so that means that strategy, though they had it, it was not effective. Now,
right.
When you come locally and
that's
you look
at,
okay, now here's my thing. As much as I would want to say it's election tampering and with the illegals, and that's true, I would never discount that. because anytime you letting people vote without ID, I mean, come on. But
Yeah.
I will say this, from being down there at City Hall, in all honesty, I think a big part that has to play in it is the lack of good political leadership and the fact that Black people have just a brainwashing attachment
Propagandized
to the
mentality. Yeah.
Democratic Party. That's
Yeah.
a real problem. That goes back to like what we were talking about earlier, this thing of flipping Chicago red, this thing of having these type of conversations, because yes, the people of this city, yes, they are hoodwinked. Yes, the people of this city have fallen for that tactic that the Democratic Party uses, which is that fear mongering.
Mm-hmm.
They have the people of Chicago, the Black people of Chicago have completely fallen for that. That's why as soon as you go to stand up for something, they go to tell you about all the horror stories of how this can happen to you in Chicago. This Chicago, if you do this in Chicago, they have completely fallen for that tactic of fear mongering to keep you from standing up for yourself. Then they sprinkled that with putting so many Black people here on public housing programs like Section 8 and stuff like that. Because so many of the Black people here have that type of benefit, that puts a muzzle on their mouth about standing up for themselves. You understand what I'm saying?
Ms. Jessica, I hear you loud and clear. I hear you loud and clear.
All those things contribute to it. Now, what we learned down in Springfield, which is very important, what you're saying too, is that the Republicans explained about how the mapping and redistricting of these voting maps and census maps have been designed where they intentionally keep the Republican Party from being able to let's say, to have these neighborhoods. So it keeps the Democrats being in control of certain parts of the city.
Yeah.
So now the Republican Party doesn't even get in to, map wise, congressional, those congressional districts, they not even mapped to come in over here on South Shore and talk to the people over here. So the only thing that the people over here hear from is the Democrats. And so the Democrats play that game of what we just witnessed Brandon Johnson doing, where you come to the Black community and you identify with the problems here. Oh, yeah. And but you never seen to be able to fix it. It's your complete running political platform. And all those times and all these meetings that I've been down there in City Hall, and we're talking about being down there 2 to 3 times per week. I'm telling your listening audience, please hear this. There has never been not one Black alderman, and we got 20 Black aldermen out of the 50 aldermen down there. Never, not one time has any Black alderman ever stood up and said, give Black people the money for economic development on the south side or west side of Chicago. They have never done it. They have never done it. Facts. They have never done it. They have stood up and supported housing for illegal immigration. They have voted on all that money. They vote on all these developments that white aldermen bring to the table for the developments that they want in their communities and their high rises that they want. Every last one of those Black aldermen vote and support what those white aldermen want. They support for the most part what the Hispanics want. But you have never, ever, never, ever heard not one of them, not one, stand up and speak specifically to the needs of the Black community on the south side or west side of Chicago. And that's horrible. That's
Can I ask
horrible.
you something, sister? I got to ask you this question. And shout out to Bless the Crochet. I appreciate you, new member. Thank you for that. But I want to ask you something, because we touched on it a little bit, when we spoke at the event. The Black community of today in Chicago, the Black communities in Chicago today, are they at all the way that it was when you was growing up?
What's
Not
changed? At all. Man, everything has changed. When I grew up over here in South Shore and grew up in Chicago in the 60s and 70s, all the way up to and including, I'm gonna say, the middle 80s, everything was on the South Side. The South Side was booming. We had everything over here. We had restaurants, we had clothing stores, we had black banks, we had black grocery stores, we had black movie theaters, we had black owned gas stations. Our schools were great. I had a great education growing up on the South Side of Chicago. The majority of the families over here owned the properties, you know,
What
coming
do you
out
think
of
changed? Like,
the
what
crack
changed it?
epidemic. The crack epidemic. See, you got to think. The Civil Rights Act was passed, what, in 1964, right? Which gave us equal opportunity for everything, supposedly, right? So that stopped segregation and that ushered in integration and all of that, right? Okay, so you got to think, by the time people that was born in the early 60s and the late 50s and stuff like that, by the time the 80s came, now we were like in our early 20s, middle 20s. So we were at the stage in life, if you will, where now we were supposed to be able to take full advantage of all these opportunities now. Because now we're grown. Because our parents were actually in Jim Crow, right? So we got the opportunity. Like, I never had to drink from a water fountain that said colored only. I never had to, you know, be on the back of the bus by the time I became kindergarten school age in the late and middle 60s. So, but like my sisters who was born in 1957 and my cousins that are older, they experienced that. Of course, my parents did, right? We're first generation Chicago, me and my sisters. My mother and my grandparents and great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents, and they out of Mississippi. You understand? And that's what the migration is for a lot of us. So what we saw by the time the 60s and 70s rolled around, what you talking about? What you talking about? Black Chicago? Black people, period. I mean, it was just a wonderful thing to be Black. It was just, I mean,
Did you ever have to worry about
everything?
So let me ask you this. Did you worry about when you went outside, did you worry about a stray bullet or a brother taking your life?
No. We, you know, I remember when like my cousin and them, let's say like was them original Blackstone Rangers, or you remember by the time you got, right, but they was called Blackstone Rangers first.
They were. I thought they was the L Rookins and then became Black Peastone Rangers.
They became the L Rookins, but originally they was the Blackstones.
Okay.
And they used to like meet up here at Woodhull Park on 73rd, and they was just, you know, but they wasn't out here shooting and killing like that. And then the Vice Lords and all them, by the time I was like in my late teens and 20s, early 20s, then you start seeing them. But even then, they wasn't just shooting, they would fight and stuff, but they wasn't killing each other. It wasn't like this. The crack epidemic brought what you're seeing now. The crack epidemic did that. In the middle 80s, you had the crack epidemic and the AIDS epidemic that ran simultaneously in the Black community, right? I mean, it was something like you had never seen before in your life. It was a complete destruction of our community. It was horrible. I put it to you this way. It's like how you look at slavery. You know that any movie that they make about slavery, right? You know, your mind automatically tells you that the reality of slavery was probably 50 to 100 times worse than anything that they would show us in the movie. Yeah. Well, it's the same thing with the crack epidemic. Any movie that you see about that, know that it was 50 to 100 times worse than that in reality. You had never seen anything like that. This was not heroin. This was not alcohol. A lot of us had fathers and uncles and stuff that had come back from several wars, like Vietnam and the Korean War and all that junk. And they, quote unquote, were alcoholics. And a lot of them, quote unquote, maybe were on heroin. Used to see, you'd be like, yeah, knock it out,
Yeah.
But this was different. This was different. This was clearly different. This was taking women out. This was making women lead their families and making women be on the corners in large numbers and making women walk off and lead their kids. And this was something different. This was something different. It was a horror in our community. It was just, and it came from out of nowhere because powder cocaine had always been considered the white man's drug. White folks did that. And then all of a sudden, this thing, crack, was around. It just came, literally, it came from out of nowhere. It came from out of nowhere. And like we talked about earlier, and that's why everybody loved Maxine Waters, because Maxine Waters was, back in the day, the congressperson that uncovered the fact that it was the CIA that actually put crack and those guns in our communities during that time to get that war going like that. See, yes, you can manipulate poverty. People will say, well, just because they put it in the community, that don't mean that people had to use it. And that's true. That's true. But hey, you cannot deny the effects of poverty.
Facts.
Poverty 100%. On people. They say, desperate times calls for desperate measures.
Yeah.
And I'm not around that time. I'm not condoning the behavior, but desperate times calls for desperate measures. And just like there was a plethora of Black people that were doing well, there were also still slums. There was also still projects.
Yeah. There
was still a big population of poverty. You know what I'm saying? But the mindset was different in terms of, we grew up really believing that, you knew, I guess you want to say subconsciously, I guess we knew that there was, quote unquote, limitations. That's how come you knew you better not go past Cicero, even though at the same time we knew we could go anywhere we wanted to on the South Side. It wasn't no Jim Crow signs hanging up. It wasn't no da-da-da. But at the same time, you knew you better not go past Cicero, though. And so it was kind of like a, it's like, you could get on into the job market. Yeah, they was hiring us, but, were we really free to be how we wanted on those jobs? Black women, hair getting all messed up because you couldn't wear your hair on these jobs. If you wanted certain jobs, you had to have your hair pressed. It had to be permed. Ultimately, all these weaves and stuff, and all those things. Brothers couldn't have beards. You had to be clean shaved. That's crazy. But see, Allen Iverson, give it up for Allen Iverson.
Got to.
You got to. He's the one, that ushered in Black men being able to be free to wear their hair how they wanted to wear their hair, because he refused to not wear his cornrows when he got into the NBA. And he was such a baller, the NBA had to let him get away with it. And he ushered it in. Next thing you know, you start seeing the Black commentators around the sports tables. They would be suited with suits on the ties, but we're having cornrows and stuff. And then from that, sisters start getting more comfortable with going back to natural hairdos, because in the 60s and 70s we was playing froze. See, we were playing froze.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
I hear you. I'm loving listening to you right now. I don't think I ever sit this quiet, but I love talking to you because you bring, I don't know, I've never lived through that time. I was born in 88. You know what I'm saying? I'm an 80s baby.
Born in 88. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when I came up, I grew up in the gang era. You know what I'm saying? My era was, being raised through the 90s where it was gang time. You know what I'm saying? They wasn't thinking about no job. The only thing you was thinking about was living and hustling, making some money, Exactly, making some money and gaining your respect in the community as that gangster, as that hustler, whatever it was. So to hear that, like, that's my dream, to see America and communities in America be together like that, and just have that, you know, when you go outside, you ain't got to worry about somebody trying to take your life, because that was my growing up. My growing up all the way into today. Today, it's even worse, because now it's not a gang member that you got to worry about taking your life. It's just a little young dude that's strung out on pills that might see you got a nice chain on, or you might, whatever it is. You know, in DC, they got 11-year-olds carjacking people, just running up to take the car. They big homie told them to go and hit the car. They go take the car. They take the life of the person driving the car, and they encourage the little dude to do it, because they say, oh, don't worry about it. You'll be out before you 18 years old. You're going to be fine. And then they take the car and they sell it. So the culture in certain places is just completely different than even when I was growing up. But to hear your story about how it was when you grew up, I wish to God that I could see that. And that's what I push for. That's what I'm pushing for now, you know, but it's a lot of things behind it. It's God. Unfortunately, it is politics. We have to pay attention to politics, because not paying attention to the politics is what's got us in this situation in the first place. You know, we got to hold these leaders accountable. We even got to hold the people that are pushing out this music, man. We got people that make it from Gary, people that make it from Chicago, people that make it from LA, people that make it from DC in the music industry, and they fold and they forget where they come from. They forget about the people, you know, and I understand why, when you grew up in an era where it's like, all these people was trying to kill me. Why would I want to do anything for them? But understand what you just said, the science behind it, or how it got to this way, and help try to heal it, help try to fix it. I'm not in no way, shape, or form a wealthy man in the terms of money, but I'm doing all that I can to try to help heal the community and bring some awareness to some things, man, and encourage these little brothers and little sisters just to want more out of life, to do better. And it would be great to have politicians on that level. It would be, in which I feel that we do in the party that we got right now, that we're supporting. You know what I'm saying? The agenda of the Trump administration is great for the community. I wish we had people that were in the music industry that cared that same way, to say, you know what, I want to help fix the community. I want to help heal the community, and have them put their best foot forward in doing that. Actors that make it, that they get their break, and they don't do nothing to give back. And you know what? Let me put a performing arts school right here and give these kids something and make it free. Let the kids come in, and I got the money to do it. I didn't have all this money before. That's why I feel like they'll probably never let me become a billionaire, because I would do things like this. You're not going to ever see me living in no super big mansion with any of that. I'm always going to give back to the people and create a better tomorrow for them, because that's what it takes. If we want to have a community of people where, you know, they'll take our word and say, look, this politician is bad. We need to hold them accountable. Let's rally together. They're going to be like, yo, I could listen to the words of Cash. We're going to do this because Cash cares about us. If Jessica says, yo, we need to go over here down to City Hall, we need to get in on this meeting, and we need to petition them for this, well, they'll get around that, because they see Jessica's really out here and cares about the community. We need people to care about the community and say what's real. Hold everybody accountable, not just the politicians, even the people in our community, the gangbangers. You're like, look, y'all out here gangbanging, but you forgot what it started for. The Vice Lord started to protect the community. The Blackstone started to protect the community. The Land King started to protect the community. Why are y'all killing each other? This needs to stop, because now it's not the police we got to worry about. We got to worry about you. We got to fix this. Let's fix this community right here with all of us. If we all came together, I promise you the game would stop. We'd flip the table over. Tell them the definition of to flip, to turn it over. What is it?
Well, it's to turn over quickly, a movement, a sudden and quick movement, to turn over something with a quick and sudden movement.
And that's what would happen if people came together.
A flip, a turnover of a quick and sudden movement. It's got to happen. It was a flip, but in the opposite direction. When the crack epidemic and AIDS epidemic hit our community, it flipped our mentality from being about it and having ambition and goals and strength. It flipped us to being poverty stricken, barely making it, like you saying, not knowing what the heck is going on, not understanding. It flipped our music. See, before the crack epidemic, men respected women and made love songs about loving women, and because they respected their mothers. But the crack epidemic came, and now you got so many boys that was raised without their mothers, because their mothers, like I said, was out there. Their mother was out there turning tricks. Their mothers had gone to jail. So now he has lost respect for his mother, and now he has lost respect for women. So now the music went from like the Isley Brothers and Temptations and them
Loving
singing
women, making
love
pleas to
songs
your
and
woman.
Luther
Yeah.
Vandross, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And now it went to F that beat. No, but the whole year, because that's what they felt about their mother.
Yeah. 100% I agree. I
You understand? That's
100% agree.
it flipped. When you're talking about flip, you're talking about us having parents that knew that you get property, you strive to pay it off so that you can pass it down to your family, so that if your family didn't have a dime in the bank, they had somewhere to live. They had property. And it flipped in the crack epidemic to now the crackhead granddaughter, the crackhead grandson going to the grandmama and telling the grandmama all about how they helped them with the house. And the next thing you know, now the crackhead then got the grandmama to sign over the property, and she don't know. The crackhead inherited the property and ended up selling that property to the crack man for a little bit of nothing. The crackhead got that property and didn't pay the property taxes on it, and then it ended up losing that property. The crackhead got a business that the father or the mother had on this street, 61st, 63rd Street, 71st Street, 75th Street, 79th Street, 47th Street. And rather than keeping that business, the crackhead sold that business for a little bit of nothing to the Asians and stuff. That's what happened to our stuff.
So
that's what happened to our stuff. That's what happened. Look, Cash. Let me tell you something. It would be nothing at 9, 10 o'clock at night. You pull up to the gas station during the 80s and the 90s. I know what I'm talking about. It wouldn't be nothing for a woman to be standing there with her little girl, 5, 6 years old, her little boy, 5, 6, 7 years old, and offering them up for sexual favors for crack. I'm telling you, it was a way far gone time. This is what brought all this sexual promiscuity that you see in our communities now. So many kids got turned out. It has nothing to do with being born that way. No, it's got to do with environmental things that happened early on. We lived it, we saw it. Now, because the crack epidemic got as widespread as it did, why? Because you got so many white women that mess around with black men, right? So now they end up getting on crack, and they took that back to their communities. So now this is when you start seeing doctors and lawyers and teachers, everybody. It hit everybody. And when that happened,
now you got the crack law.
George Bush put those rehab and crack laws in it, because his daughters, my understanding, his daughters got on it. And then that's what made him start making rehabs and transitional housing. And guess what? What else happened? The churches got pulled into it. The government gave what? The churches 501c3 status if they built transitional housing, rehabs. That's when you saw what? All the neighborhood churches and storefront churches start depleting, start going away. And all the black churches end up being these big old shrines, and all the black preachers was bishops now, and all that, because they was getting that government money. So now once they start getting this government money, let's fast forward. Now when you start ushering in this LBGT, because now just like the crack epidemic created sexual promiscuity in the black neighborhoods, it also created that same sexual promiscuity in white neighborhoods. So now what did the government say? We're going to make that normal now. We're going to say you can be that way. And then why? Because a lot of us is that way now. Come on.
You definitely hitting it on the head.
Like Obama to come and put it into law. And now when they see this black face, say that it's okay to be this way because he lit up the White House and passed those laws. Now here come black men all on board with it. Black women all on board. And now the Democratic Party, they convinced us that we don't need to be married no more. We don't need to have children and family no more. No, we need to just sit here and be into same-sex relationships and transgender. We need to be all of that. But what we don't need to be is a husband. What we don't need to be is a wife. What we don't need to have is families. We need to be that.
And even
And
an
have
agenda
told our
to delete
youngins,
it.
come on, and have told our youngins that's what the civil rights laws are for. So you can be free to be that. Come on. I'm talking about what I know. And it's enough to make you pass out, to know that our parents, our ancestors, are you suggesting that they went through all that they went through so that you can sit up here and just be sexually wild?
Yo,
I
you
will
are
never
on fire.
vote Democrat again in my life. I'll never do it. They are the party that is just spreading this sickness. And when you get the preachers and start giving them money, the same thing they doing with the immigration. Don't you see the preachers, the black preachers that got broke off and making them stand up and tell black people about how this is good, how you being good to take them and give your little resources to them. It's the Christian thing to do because all them getting paid. It's the same thing.
They not giving anything. They making you give.
It's immigration now.
Yeah, 100%. The pastors ain't giving anything from their own pocket because everything in their pocket comes from your pocket. But they want you to take what you already given from your pocket, not only still give it to him, but give it to these people who ain't even supposed to be here in the first place. It's the hypocrisy behind it is crazy. And then at the same time, promoting the life of degeneracy in some of these churches, like what you was talking about. You know, promoting this thing when they supposed to.
You homophobic. The churches are saying you homophobic if you don't go along with this.
Exactly. And that's a part of the problem. It's just like you just said. It's so many different things that you touched on that I agree with 100%. And to hear you saying it, because I'm going to be real. You don't hear a lot of people from where we come from, the background that we come from, and you are from a whole nother era than the one that I was born into. And to hear you and the testimony that you got about the way that you grew up compared to the way things are right now and still point out the same problems that I'm seeing lets me know that, we ain't wrong here. We not wrong here. But it needs to be more people, though, that come from this kind of beginning, like this, the kind of background that we come from, because too many times, the reason why it doesn't get heard is you have too many, quote unquote, conservative blacks that speak on it, but they lack the empathy or the sympathy towards the community of how we got there in the first place. I've studied enough to understand how we got to this point, and we can't just put it all off on, black people's plight is because of black people's decisions. No, it was a lot of things that forced that person that said, you know what? I'm going to make the choice to sell drugs in my community because I got to feed my kids. I had a job before this epidemic hit, but because of redlining or because this business shut down or because of whatever it was that made me have nothing, because of welfare that said, I got to get out of my house. I can't, the state's taking care of my woman and now I can't be there. Now you're over here like, okay, I can't get a job. I lost my place. I lost my family. What am I going to do? It's a lot of things behind it that went into the destruction of the black community.
Yes.
So to have people that understand that come out and we speak the way that we speak compared to the people that don't care about any of that and just want to make black people the demon. I'll put it like that. They want to, and they are black, and they want to make black people the demon in the scenario and say it's their own fault. That's why most black people don't listen to anything that a Republican has to say or a conservative has to say, because the black people that they have put in your face to be the voice of the black conservative movement are basically, I'm gonna go ahead and say it, they're tap dancers, whether it be on purpose or not on purpose. I believe some of them, they do it on purpose because they like that check. They don't really care about the black community or the community at all. They don't care about the poor community is what I want to call it, because nowadays you go look at a white community and a black community that both have the same issues. They're both in the same circumstances. You could take color completely out of it in today's society. You go to Black Oak and Gary, it's a bunch of white people that live just like the black people. You know what I'm saying? And Gary, they all poor and they all get screwed. There is no help for anybody, so it's the people that they put forward that turn people off. And especially when you think about Chicago, you know, Chicago gets turned off when they hear anything about a Republican because they believe the propaganda that's been put out about the Republican Party, not understanding any of the history that the Republican Party has played in the upliftment of Black people throughout time since their origin, right? Since the Republican Party's origin. So they don't even want to hear it because they've heard all the propaganda, and they get politicians like Brandon Johnson that'll come in and feed them more propaganda and feed them more lies. You got people like Lori Lightfoot. You got people like, unfortunately now, Maxine Waters, who's completely different than she was back in the past. She's completely like sold out. She don't care about a community. Is all she cares about is keeping that money. Maxine Waters pays her daughter $100,000 a year. Maxine Waters owns a house that is worth 4 times the money that she makes. And you could go down the list of Black politicians that this is the same case of. So they don't care about the community. This is why it's important for people like you, Jessica, for people like myself, people like John Anthony, people like Flip Chicago Red. You know, it takes that, but we have to be vocal. And I know you don't like social media. I know that. But sister, your voice is probably the most powerful voice that I've ever heard. Like you and the way that you bring it. People will listen to you. They listening to you right now. The chat is loving you right now. They are loving you. You have such a powerful voice. And I'm telling you, people will listen to you. You just have that aura that people will just sit and they'll listen to you talk because it's genuine. You're not making nothing up. There is no hidden agenda. You're not getting paid. You just care about your community and you care about the struggles that we are all faced with.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, you said a very, very important, you said a lot of important things just then. But I think one thing that you said about how the Black people don't want to hear nothing about the Republican Party. They just shut them out. What I liken that to, right, is, and then you made reference to the fact that, but it was the Republican Party that from day one, let's say, did things for us to help us get out this condition. Okay, you might hear people say, well, you know, Lincoln didn't really want to sign it either. He just was trying to keep the Union together. And that could very well be true. It probably is true. But we're looking at what the results was. Okay, it's up to us to channel through our emotions over here, but let us look at the result. It doesn't matter why he did it as much as that he did it. Okay,
Facts.
Now let's go on back to the other part that you said, and that's connected to that, because we don't talk a lot about how the Republican Party began with us and this and that. I liken that to, you know how a child can be born and never know about his father. Let's just use for an example, right? Because that child wasn't there at the time of conception. And it's going to be, let's say, at least we're going to say about 4 years or so of that child's life that they're not going to remember just by nature, right? So whatever that parent, if it's the mother, whatever, that's the custodial parent that child lives with. That parent has opportunity, if you will, to feed whatever they want to into that young child's mind about who that other parent is. And therefore, you have some situations where no matter what you say to this boy, no matter what you say to this girl, they don't want to have nothing to do with their daddy. It ain't necessarily because their daddy did anything to them directly. Some of them never even seen their daddy, but they'll tell you all about how they don't want to have nothing to do with their daddy, based on what was fed to them by that mother, or it could come the other way. That boy or that girl don't want to have nothing to do with their mother because of what that father told them.
And that's what we face in
Right?
politics.
So it's the same thing with us with the Republican Party. Come on. A lot of us, like you say, don't know that history of the Republican Party and how back in the day, it was the Republican Party that signed the Emancipation Proclamation to get us out of slavery. It was the Republican Party that originally gave us the promise of the 40 acres and the mule. They're not even looking at right now in this current time. It's the Republican Party that's on Capitol Hill defending the 14th Amendment. Come on. They're used right now. Right now, it's the Republican Party that's saying the 14th Amendment was made for the enslaved people. It gave black people their citizenship. It's the Republican Party that's arguing that right now.
Facts.
Come on. Come on.
Facts.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Turn on your YouTube and hit that key that's going to let you look at the arguing on Capitol Hill right now on Pennsylvania Avenue. Look at them, what them Republicans is talking about. Look at them white boys. Huh? What they call them? The white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. The WAPs. Straight up white boy.
AKA
Come on.
modern day abolitionist is what I like to call
Come
them.
on.
And I'm going to go ahead and say
Capitol Hill.
The abolitionists of today is the Republicans, just how it was back in the day. It's the same thing, and people just miss it because they believe the propaganda. If this was back in the Civil War times, the black people that are upset, right, that are upset at the Republican Party or believing, not even upset, believing the propaganda of the left would be the same ones fighting on the side of the Confederate soldiers. But yet you, exactly. But yet you and me would get called the Uncle Tom, even though we telling you, like, listen, they're the only ones that's fighting for us. These people are fighting to keep you on their plantation. Well, they feeds me good. Well, they feeds me good. They takes cares of me. They lets me go into the big house. That's the Democratic Party right now. And people just I don't get how you don't see that. How you don't see that when
way that you don't see that this parent is intentionally trying to keep you away from your other parent. You just don't see it. All you know is that this is the parent, like you say, that always clothed you, that always showed up for school recitals, that always made sure that you had everything. And there's nothing that this auntie from across the street, that this cousin from when they come and tell you, okay, but I knew your dad. I know your father. Yes, he did want you, but your mother didn't want to have nothing to do with him because he didn't want to have a relationship, didn't want to continue a relationship with her. Yeah. So she did not want you to know. But I'm telling you, yes, your father's name is such and such.
Yeah,
he is alive. He lived right over there on 53rd. And Emerald. Yeah, and that child will still sit there, even though they know that auntie such and such ain't never lied to me about nothing. She always been nice to me. To still, when that same auntie tell her, your dad did it, nope. Yeah. Nope.
It's a shame.
Nope. You know, and it's a shame. And what you end up seeing, this person, this child, grow up their whole life with this animosity towards the parent, the other father, and will transfer that ill thinking to any relationship that they go into or the opinions that they have. It's the same thing. We have been taught that the Republican Party is racist. They racist. So now when you or me are telling black people, listen to what's going on. They're the ones, the Republican Party is the one that's standing on the 14th Amendment. Donald Trump is the one who made the Platinum Plan for Black America. Donald Trump is the one who said that black people contributed to this, built this country. And
they bypassed that. They bypassed right through that.
Look.
Yeah.
Because we have been fed that the Republican Party is this. And then when you go over here to the black people that are there, we so scared to be black in those circles. When you talk about the examples that we used earlier, Larry Elder, Candace Owens, Brandon Tannerman, they're scared. It's almost like they're scared to be black in those spaces.
They try to accommodate the people that they're getting around. Yeah, they don't speak on the right issues.
I'll put it this way. I'm not gonna fault, let's say, Candace Owens, let's say, for example, I'm
I
not
don't
going
fault her
to
either.
fault. Wait a
I don't
minute, wait.
fault her.
I'm not going to fault her for saying that we got too many single family homes and we need to do that. I'm not going to, because you and I both know
She's
that that's
right.
true.
She's one.
She's
She
right.
says the right information. It's the
But
delivery.
I'm not even going to say it's the delivery. I'm not going to say that. What I'm going to say is, but they neglect to look at or acknowledge the part of institutionalized racism that still exists. Yes, it does.
They'll
We
say it
talked
don't.
about that earlier
Yeah,
when
they'll
we
say it
talked
don't
about my
exist.
case, right? It's
Yeah.
a perfect example how institutionally, yes, they are still practicing discrimination, because look at how they are all coming together in the name of gentrification, in the name of illegal immigration to take this property. It has nothing to do with me being a single mama, because I was married before I
Right.
had children. It has nothing to do with my mother was a felon because she have never been to jail. Her children never been to jail. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with, yes, there are systems in place that still affect the housing and real estate of Black people. So while Candace Owens and them are quick to bring forward the things that we do that are wrong, and we should have those discussions. We shouldn't act like it's okay for
I
us to
agree.
not be going to school and no, that should be lifted. But at the same time, no kind of way should we give white people a pass for all the things that we still see are systematically in place that are hindering our economic progress.
Well, that's the thing, though. This is my thing. I don't see it as the white people have to be held accountable. That's my thing. I see it as the political party needs to be held accountable, because you
Correct.
have a side. You have a Trump side, right? Trump has been persecuted just like a brother gets persecuted, and he's pointing it out. He's saying, yo, they are corrupt. There is a such thing as a deep state. These people have been screwing you guys over for how long? I'm shedding a light on it, and I want to get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't say white people. We got to say, we can say the system. Yes, there is some systemic problems within the system. I 100% agree. But it's so far past it being a color thing, because you have so many people of different shades that are involved on keeping it going, keeping that system alive. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not ever going to say I need to hold the white people that created this system are dead. They don't exist anymore. They're not here. The people that are upholding it are the people like Brandon Johnson, are the people like Alicia Ocasio-Cortez, are the people like Maxine Waters, are the people like the Clintons, are the people like George Bush. George Bush was on the Republican side, keeping it alive. Are the rhinos that are inside of Congress. It's them people that are keeping that system alive and not acknowledging the real problems. So again, this is why for me, it's a Trump agenda, because it's an American first, and that includes everyone, and he makes that clear. I'm not singling out Black folks. I'm not singling out white folks. I'm not singling out any American. I want America to prosper. That's why I get behind Trump, because he's pointing it out. And it helps me to remove the color boundary. The color boundary don't exist when it comes to this administration. And that's what I try to hit home to people. The problem isn't white people in today's society. The problem isn't Black people in today's society. The problem isn't brown people in today's society. The problem is lack of knowledge, an unwillingness to accept the realities as they are because you're stuck living in the past, and a failure of people to come together to identify the problems and then hold the people accountable that are perpetrating it.
I agree with that. And I also will say this. When you go back to our generation, we were big on the political philosophy of, well, it don't matter who in office, because either way it go, ain't either one of them gonna do nothing for us. And we lived that political ideology for a long time, and so we were not as politically involved for a period of time as we should have been. I think we paid attention for a long time just at the fact that the signs were down, that we could go into places, that we could have these type of jobs. And I think it took now for us to realize that, whoa, wait a minute. What's really going on? Whoa. In other words, let's say like in this city, because Chicago has been known for being segregated since forever. That's not nothing new to the game here. It was one thing for Black people to accept that the North Side and downtown looked better than the South Side. Even when we was in our best days, you still could see a difference between the North Side and the South and West Side. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. But we kind of chalked that up, if you will, to just that's how it is because of all the issues of the past and America and their racism or okay, right. That's the way it is. But we was good. See, but at the same time, we were good, right? But it's a whole different thing when you see the deterioration of your communities. And the same city is telling you there's no money, telling you it's a process, telling you about how they got to vote on this and vote on that and da-da-da-da. And again, it's a part of you that accepts that because you know traditionally it's always been this black-white thing.
Yeah.
And that and white people have it quote unquote just better than us overall. And you just the part of you accepts that because you know that's just the truth of where it is. That's just how it is here in America, based on America and the history. It's okay. But when you bring these people here, and again, immigration has always been here. That's not something new. That's always been here. But what hasn't always been here is for a political party to literally open up the border and tell everybody to come on in here. Just come on. Where you saw caravans of people coming, all in buses every day, airplanes being put all in police stations, putting people in warehouses and schools and then now whoa now that's something different. Now wait a minute, hold up. And now you saying that these people gonna come over in the Black community, and then you gonna get these people, you the city and the county and the country gonna find all kind of money for these people when you done told us ain't no money. We gotta wait. And then I think that's when it's like they say, you poke the bear. Now it's the problem. We woke up from it, like they say, okay with it, because see, that's how they manipulated what woke is.
Yeah, woke used to be cool. Like we was woke.
Erykah Badu and them, and when Erykah Badu and Marlon Wayans and them started saying we was woke back then, it wasn't like how they manipulated.
No, they hijacked it.
Come on, they straight hijacked it. Come on, they straight hijacked it. So now you didn't quote unquote, we're gonna say woke the people because you didn't, hit us with this immigration like this and this money. Now Black people are in a space of, okay, we woke. All right, we woke and we know this wrong, but where do we go with these feelings? Where we take this to? Because they done told us that the Republicans is racist. They don't like us. They don't care about us. But at the same time, we got to face the reality that the Democratic Party been wrong to you. Again, we're going to go back to that analogy that I gave. Now, one day you meet your daddy. Come on.
I'm telling you.
What do you do with these feelings that you have? Where for 20 years, you hated this father based on what you had heard about him. Only to find out now you facing a reality that this person, your mother, who you love and trust and she done lied to you all these years. Now, how do you turn off the love
feelings that you had
for her? Come on, while at the same time being able to embrace and change your mind. Come on and flip your mind to embracing the love of your father. That's where Black people are now. what we gonna do now that the bed got poked? And we see that, okay, for real, the Democrats done dogged us out. We ain't, and now we looking at like people like me and you telling black people, your dad, that is your fault.
Yeah.
Not saying that Donald Trump is at that follow the bouncing
No,
ball.
I get what you mean. It's an analogy.
Because you know how we get. Here,
Yeah.
daddy. Follow the bouncing ball, people. Follow the bouncing ball. And now we telling them, no, the Republican Party ain't what you've been told. Is it that now you got some black people, come on, that's going to be like that child, that's going to say, Daddy, I'm glad that because we recognize that that's that whole being field that we long for. And that and that just because we embracing our daddy, it don't mean that we completely hating our mama. See, for us to embrace the Republican Party, it don't mean we got to hate the Democrats, because after all, they signed over, they gave us the Civil Rights Act that got us out of Jim Crow. Yeah, so we ain't anti-hating you like that, but we understand now.
We see the manipulation that you use.
Got to come from the Republicans. Why? Because they're the ones who saw our condition as a problem in the first place. The Democrats are the one that enslaved us. The Democrats are the one that was the KKK. It was the Emancipation Proclamation. It was the Republican Party, for whatever reason, said that they wanted legislation that said that this ain't good.
Yep.
To have a group of people like this ain't good. This ain't right. Whether it was because they wanted economic growth for the Republicans up north with it, for whatever reason, they saw that the remedy was to correct the situation with us. And that's what the Emancipation Proclamation did. Then they came on further and gave us what, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment to put us what, legally into the fabrics of America.
Mm-hmm.
They did that.
Literally fought a war in favor of it. Literally.
And it wasn't just like, I'm gonna go like what you said. It wasn't just the white men out there fighting that war. You had black men who we wasn't even free yet. That was out there in the wars. You had black women. We wasn't even free. Why? Because they loved the country.
Yep.
They wanted to be free. They understood they needed to come out of slavery. They needed to be free.
So today what's happened? Today what's happened is, because the Democrats lost in that war, right, and had to free the slaves, what they ended up doing was creating a mental slavery that a lot of our people were stuck in, and they can't see it. They can't see the fact that they can't see, like, for instance, the term Uncle Tom, right? They use it as a term of being derogatory towards somebody that educates themselves and frees themselves from the Democrat Party, not even have read Uncle Ben's Cabin.
Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Uncle Tom, whatever. Uncle Tom's Cabin. I haven't read it either, but I got the synopsis of it. I read the summary of it, and I'm like, yo, this dude was great. But they use it as that term, while they don't realize what they're doing is being the Sambo. The Sambo was the one you had to watch out for. The Sambo was the one that would fight on the side of the master out of ignorance to protect his own interests, to keep himself straight and keep his master happy. Sambo would grab that whip and beat you with an inch of your life, happily, calling you a nigga the whole time, talking to you like he was the master. And that's what I see with the people that will fight and defend. How is it that you have tied up the civil rights movement, which was to help free black people and help give black people the same rights and privileges as white people in this country? You will take that, and now all of a sudden it's got to do with women, it's got to do with transgender, like the LGBTQ, it's got to do with illegals, it's got to do with everybody else other than black people. Everybody benefit except for you, black people. We want you to fight with us, though. We want you to stand with us. We want you to come on the front lines and stand with us, even though this ain't got nothing to do with us. Or they say, well, I'm black and I'm trans, or I'm black and I'm okay. That's a choice that you're making. This is a choice that you're making, but you're spitting, in my opinion, you're spitting on the Martin Luther Kings. You're spitting on the Malcolm X's. You're spitting on everybody that came before that fought, got beat, got hosed, got dog bites, got all of these things, that took a stand for you to take part in the American experience as a whole and take grasp of it and rise up into a position to where you be recognized and really it be paying a homage to them to see black people be successful in this country and doing what's right instead of using their freedoms to further promote a degeneracy, a decay, the death of the black community that you once knew before the crack epidemic.
Yeah. It's the saddest thing that you ever want to see. And that's why we have to keep having these type of conversations. We have to keep having these type of platforms. We have to keep holding us accountable.
Yeah.
You know, because at this point in the juncture, I'm going to go back to what I said. It's 20 black aldermen down there in City Hall. And it's X amount of black commissioners too. And all the black leadership that Brandon Johnson named in that clip that you showed. And for our communities to look the way that they do. And for the answer to black people when you question these type of things, like with Brandon Johnson, and for your only explanation that you have, or the only evidence that you have that you're quote unquote doing the right thing or doing for black people, is because you can name off a bunch of black people in position. That's the only evidence that you have about how you helping black people, because you can name off all the positions that black people hold, but you can't show any data that shows improvement that these black people that you named, including yourself, Brandon Johnson, has done since you've been in office. You can't show a snapshot. You can't show a stat. All you can do is show.
You know how I hear Brandon Johnson? This is let's change the setting, right? It's the late 1700s. This is Brandon Johnson. Listen to me, black people, okay? This is the first plantation. This is the largest plantation in the history of America, okay? And we got a black overseer. We got a black master. We got a black person that directs what's going on the field. Everything is black. We have all black slave owners over here. This is the first administration in the plantation where it's ran by all black people. Y'all should be proud of that. That's what I hear from Brandon Johnson. I'm going to clip that. That's going to be a viral reel tomorrow. That's Brandon Johnson. Listen, black folks on the plantation, everybody on the Democratic plantation, I want you to listen to me right now, okay? We got the largest black plantation in all of America. And this is the first time ever that the plantation has been ran by all black people, okay? It's not the white man beating you no more. No, we got an all black staff. We are getting somewhere, and we need you to protect this.
And we need you to protect this. Come on.
That's what I hear from Brandon Johnson and people like
That's it. That's it. Ain't nowhere to go from that. You nailed it. You nailed it. That right there, like you said, put that on TikTok. Let that go viral. Because that's what he just said. Play that clip that he said, and then play what you just said in response to that, because that's perfect. That's exactly what he just said. He just told people, look here, I set up the perfect plantation for you.
Mm-hmm. Facts.
Facts. I mean, you could not have laid that out any better. I'm gonna tell you, like scripture say. What it say? Flesh and blood did not reveal that to you.
I'm trying to tell you.
No,
I've been in my word lately, and you know,
right,
sister, it's so hard for me to get on here and have these conversations, because I get an emotional response, just like, you know, other black folks when we talk about, you know, black issues, right? I hate even to use the term because I feel so much pride in being an American. I try to, for me, the vision that they had in the past of our ancestors that fought and died for us to be able to be here, right? In the position we are, to be able to have a voice, a platform, to be able to go live and talk to people around the country. You know what I'm saying? To be able to get on stages and do what we do without repercussion. I find it insulting to them for us to to not just say that we're American. Yeah, I love my skin color. Don't get me wrong. I love me. Every time I look in the mirror, I'm like, you are one handsome black man. You know, you're at least a 7, maybe a 7.5, right? And that's good for me. I'm all right with it. And I hate that we separate ourselves. When you look at an application, you don't see white people having to put European American. You don't see them having to put Irish American or Italian American. No, they're just American. That's what we are. We're just American. Our ancestors fought and died for the same reasons for us to be able to say, no, we are American. I'm not a Negro. I'm not an African American. I ain't got nothing to do with Africa. In fact, I could trace my lineage to right here in this land. I ain't never been to Africa. I don't know any of my ancestors that came from Africa. It ain't got nothing to do with me. You know what I'm saying? I'm an American. Stop separating me. Stop separating me. But when we talk about our community, the black community, right? The quotations of black community, I would love to see people rising up and doing what other communities do. We are the only community within America. You go to Chinatown, Chinese people hire Chinese people. They help their businesses out. The Chinese people go and shop at the Chinese store. You go to Skokie, where it's all, you know, over there, it's all Jewish people. They shop Jewish. Everything Jewish. When you go to the Italian part of Chicago, everything that they build, the wealth that they're building is for the Italians. The Italians know I'm going to go and I'm going to shop with them. Not that they hate black people or they hate Irish people. It's just, no, we want to build some wealth within our community around us. You know, they got the Irish community. They do the same thing. So why is it a problem? And why is it so hard for black folks, black community, to come together and say, yo, we're going to build these stores and we're going to shop here within our stores? Why is it that the person that came from Pakistan or that came from wherever they came from can come and set up shop in a black community and the black people going to go strong and mess with him before they will go and mess with somebody who's got the clothing line or somebody that's got the convenience store that's black? Why? Why is that a thing? I want to see.
It goes back to the conditioning. It goes back to the conditioning. And then it's hard to say it's that, especially when you live through a period of time like I'm talking about, where you did see the black businesses.
And I'm not talking about an African. Let me be clear real quick. I'm not talking about an African that comes to set up a store. That's not, to me personally, that's not a black owned. I'm talking about Americans, black Americans. Yeah.
I am too. When I'm talking about how the South Side of Chicago used to be, those was black Americans, not Africans that were over here because like today, and when I was in in Springfield, I brought up that point about today, don't refer to me as African American, because African American today means something different than it did some years ago. Years ago, there was an era of time where black people in America did try to engage in Pan-Africanism because Africa was not so far away from us. See,
today they don't like us.
But today is something different. Okay, now, my thing is this, and we had this discussion in Springfield, because they said, well, you know, we Americans, and I don't even see color, and this and that. And my response to that is this. Yeah, we are Americans. Absolutely. And I think black people spend way too many years of us being quote unquote mad at America for what has happened here in America. So we wasn't quote unquote owning America. And again, that's the blessing in what you see today, because today is the first time where you're hearing so many black people in modern time, take the stand of this is our country.
Facts. I got chills.
Okay, so that in there, I see it's a good thing. Now, my thing to the Republican Party when they said that to us when we was there last week is, no, I want you to see that I'm black, just like I see you white. Now, do that mean that we got to fall out with each other? Do it mean that if you look at me and you say I'm black, does that mean that you expect that I'm getting ready to come out my purse with a Uzi? Just like if I say you white, does that mean that I think you getting ready to go down to your back and pull out your pointed hood? Or does it just mean you black? I mean, I'm black and you white. I want you to see that I'm black. I wouldn't hold in my blackness if my life depended on it. I love it. I love everything that comes with it. I love the history behind it. I love the
We had
strength
that talk.
behind it. I
We
wish
had that talk,
would
remember?
stop talking about that I'm black. Yes, I am. I don't want to not be black.
Hey, sis, what I tell you
Are
on
you kidding
stage?
me right now?
What I tell you on the stage? You remember what I said when I was sitting on the stage with you talking about how I was dressed? And I was like, man, I ain't want to come in this dressed up like her. I wanted to just be myself. I wanted to wear my do-rag. I wanted to, you know what I'm saying? And you know what I found interesting about it, sister? You know, in the community, right? When I speak about the things that I'm speaking about, because I speak like this in the community, I talk to people and I'm bringing the same issues and they are shocked. Like when I did that video that you seen that John Anthony sent you, people was like, bro, I can't believe that you said all that. It was some real, that was real, but you don't look like you supposed to be saying what you be saying, right? And it's the same sense because they looking at me like, okay, he look like us, but he don't sound like us with the things that he's bringing, right? But then on the flip side, when I went into that building, I didn't look like I belonged there. I seen some of the salty stares of like, who is this nigga? You know what I'm saying? Who is he, right? And then when I opened my mouth to speak, it changed their perception. I had a line just lined up of people. It blew my mind. A line of people just stopped me. And I'm like, yo, my line was longer than Rob Blagojevich's line to come and take a picture and talk with me. And I was shocked. And I'm like, dang, because they didn't care about what I looked like at that point. They heard everything that I was saying. It's just the perception. So it's like, I want you to see me for me. Yeah, this is me. I love my mocha skin. I love my do-rag. I love my swag. I love everything about Cash. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just like you. Yeah. So I feel you, sister. I love you, man.
Come to the Republican Party. Why would we not come to the Republican Party with the expectation that the Republican Party deal with the issues that we have? We're not going to sit here and act like Black Americans don't have issues that are outside of other people. Why would we do that when we know that's not the truth? And those things are right here in America. Why would we not talk about those things to the Republican Party? Because if we don't, then we put ourselves in a position as Black people to let the government just play kick the can with our life. The Democrats don't want to do nothing, then the Republicans don't either. Why would we do that when we are the ones that built the White House? Why would we not expect nothing out of the White House?
I feel that.
That's the only government that we have. I'm going to tell you what make us different from the other groups. If America don't do right by Asians, America gonna answer to the United Nations about that. America gonna have some sanctions, some tariffs, and all that. But not dealing with the Asians right. They're going to have it if they don't deal with the Indian Hindu people right. They're going to have to answer for that. They're going to have to answer for if they don't deal with these Hispanic countries right. They got to answer to the United Nations, but they ain't got to answer to nobody about how they do Black America. We ain't got to see at the United Nations. This is why we got to deal with the government here. This is why we can't sit up here and keep on walking around talking about how ain't neither one of them doing nothing for us. Okay, then if the families don't do nothing for us, then who gonna do something for us for our tax dollars? We ain't paying our tax dollars in the air. We paying them to a government.
Yo.
Why can't we demand? That makes us the most powerful people on the planet. That we the group that go to our government and tell our government how to treat us and what we want. We ain't run to another country to do it. We didn't run and tell another country to stand up. I ain't run over to Mexico and tell that Mexico government that the courthouse is bothering me. I came down at the city hall and told them. I'm going up into the White House and telling Trump to come kick these people down here about me.
Let's go. Hey, Miss Jessica, I swear to God, I love you. I love you. We tell our government what to do about us. I love you. This is what I'm talking about.
What it is, Cash?
Yo, this is
why you gonna stand behind other groups of people who ain't even had the courage to stand on their own soil and demand their own country to do for them. And you gonna tell me that you gonna let them be the mouthpiece for you?
Listen.
How can they speak for us?
Noble Drew Ali, everything that you just spoke about, and that he don't get enough props, right? Noble Drew Ali. I love Noble Drew Ali. I don't know if you know anything about Noble
I
Drew
don't
Ali.
know about him. You're gonna have to put me up on him.
This brother spoke about all of these things back in the 30s. You know what I'm saying? He spoke about everything that you just said about us over here. We don't have a nation that we could turn to because this is our nation. This is our nation. Nobody ain't gonna. When they brought
the 14th Amendment,
100%. But you know, back when they brought reparations up, right? They brought it before the United Nations, talking about reparations to black people. Do you know what America's response was?
What?
We'll gladly pay reparations, but who we gonna pay them to? Because we only deal with nations. What nation are they from?
Okay.
saying?
Well, if that be the case, if that be the case, I guess you're gonna pay it to the nation, the same nation and the people that Abraham Lincoln and the Republicans was talking to back then when they said that they was giving us a 40 acres and a mule. Clearly, they knew who they was talking to.
Yo.
So now all of a sudden you don't know who we are.
No, it wasn't
Who
that.
was
It's
they
not that.
talking to?
It's not that they didn't know who. It's the same thing that Trump been saying, right? What Trump is doing right now with the 14th Amendment. All the things that's
Right,
happening
so
right
when
now.
you
People ain't hip to really what's going on right now. Black people in
Right,
America, yeah, black people in America. This is your nation. You didn't come from no other nation. You're not from anywhere else in the world. We are from right here in America, and I'm not going to get too deep into it.
Right.
But this is what it is. This is why I encourage black patriotism, black people to become more. I understand what the past was. I get it. I understand the things that they told us about history. I get all of that. I understand what happened to our ancestors in history. I understand all of that. But the fact of the matter is we are not there. And our ancestors fought, literally fought. They walked miles. They got moved around and displaced all throughout this country for you to have the right to be able to be proud of where you come from. And we have changed this nation from what they wanted it to be. When I say they, I mean the racists that used to be in power in this country compared to where we are right now and where we are heading. I would encourage all black, white, red, yellow people that are not a part of that racist ideology, that just see this country and love this country and want to see this nation prosper and the people within this nation prosper. Everybody has to come together in one patriotic voice and say, no more. No more of y'all's corruption. No more of y'all dividing us. No more of y'all pitting us against each other. No more democratic ideology from the leftist point of view, because that's what's has caused from history, historical times, the foundation of America up until now. It has been a leftist ideology that has ruined the minds of men and women in this country, ruined it. To the point of they don't even know who the hell they are no more. It doesn't matter about what the past is. Don't matter about who fought. Doesn't matter about who died. Doesn't matter about any of that. It's just an ideology of lunacy that tells you that you can be anything but successful. You can be anything but successful. That's what the leftist ideology tells you. You can't be successful. You need us. We are going to take care of you. But if you want to be a woman, you can be a woman, black man. If you want to be a cat in school and pee in a litter box, you can be that young child. If you want to be on welfare when you grow up, you can do that, young white girl from the trailer park. If you want to be whatever, this is what the leftist ideology pushes. See, but the ideology that we have on the other side, and I'm not meaning Republican, I'm meaning American first, America first agenda. And this is for everybody, right? America first agenda. I don't care if you're a Democrat or you call yourself a Democrat or you call yourself a Republican. If you ain't pushing an America first agenda and a spirit of patriotism inside of yourself and having the spirit of God, because fundamentally that's what's wrong with the country. People ain't got God no more. Once you got God, you can see through a correct lens of what's right and what's wrong. This is why, again, I do not identify myself as a Republican. I don't identify myself as a Democrat. I am just Cash Kelly, an American, concerned American, Trump supporter with a lot of conservative values because it just makes sense. It just makes sense, especially when I look through the lens of God. Okay? We have to get people on board with that, especially, I got to say, especially in the Black communities, because that's where we are suffering. That's where most communities are suffering the most. Not that anybody else ain't going through their own suffrage, right? But this is where we are suffering the most. And they've taught us to do it to ourselves. The KKK don't even got to exist anymore. They don't got to do anything but sit back. What Pac say? He say, give them guns, step back, watch them kill each other. Give them dope, let them deal to brothers. Pac said that. That's exactly what's happened. That's the time we're living in. They don't got to do anything. They have conditioned us so well that, just like Brandon Johnson will say, we've got the largest Black-owned plantation. You should be proud. And we whipping each other. We beating each other instead of coming together and holding people accountable. So that's what I got. That's it.
Well, I think that, we covered a lot of ground today, but, for me, I believe that, we are of African descent. And I don't think that should be denied. Where else did we come from? The first man was created in Africa.
Yeah, but
what I'm saying is, I think that because we were the first people here, I believe that we migrated all over the world.
Right, but that means everybody should be Pan-African. Everybody should accept their African descent.
Right, we came from Africa, and I believe some of us were here like we were in other parts of the world. And I believe that the slave trade did take place and bring some Africans over there and brought them over here. And I believe that created what we call Black people today. That's what created this group that's in America today. And I think that we don't need to deny that that's where our heritage is from, because it's showing from the European, it's showing from the Asian. And we just like God, we were created by God, just like everybody else. We wasn't blown into the air.
No, I'm gonna talk to you off of this. I'm gonna talk to you outside of this.
No, I'm just saying, because this talk now, it's almost like we want to say that we ain't slaves, that we was already here. And I'm saying that I agree that it's a part of that has to be true, just because Black people the Africans or whatever were created first. And I do believe that they did come to all different parts of the world. But all of us did not end up here by being here by way of that natural migration over here. I'll put it that way. Some of us did come by way of that slave trade. And that's and that's who we are. Now, a lot of us who are by way of the slave trade, some of us, not all of us though, but some of us actually have documents to prove where we were, our lineage, our family. A lot of people that were already here, I don't know if you can prove that you were already here, because it was maybe, I don't know. What's the documents to prove the ones that were already here? I don't know. I know that I've never heard and I've never seen that when it all boiled down to it, when Master came, he did not say, was you a Black person that's already here, or was you a Black person that came on the ship? It seemed to me that everybody ended up in the same place, just like today. All of us ended up in the same place, an oppressed people. So to me, that's an argument, a position where, it stands more for dialogue and conversation. Of course it does, yes. But I don't know what in the big
don't matter. At the end of the day, it don't matter when we're talking about what's going on in today.
And today, all of us are ending up in the same situation. And all of us need to come together and help each other as best as we can. Now, there will be some that will, and there will be some that won't. And for those that will, let's go. Those that won't, then it is what it is. But we still got to move forward. I always say, Jesus had 12 disciples, not 12,000, not 12 million. He had 12. This concept that it take a whole lot of people to do something, that's us being caught up in the civil rights movement. At that time, yes, that's what it took, but it's not that. We're not there today. Today, we need to be dealing with legislation. Today,
Facts.
we need to zoom in on the problems that we know for a fact are our problems, which is
Facts.
dying educational systems, dying families, corrupt courts, lack of employment. These are things that don't need to be studied. They don't need to be argued about. They don't know. We need to take our concerns over here to the Republican Party, because the Democratic Party has proven that they could care less. Now, just because the Democratic Party don't care, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't care. It means that we need to take our chaos over to the Republican Party and start dealing in government. Stop being emotionally and politically lazy.
I love it.
Stop. Like, it's just like when you were a kid. As soon as you get stuck and don't understand that 2 + 3 is 5, whether there's somebody taking the time and explain it to you, teach you how to, like they say, count on your fingers, 1, 2, then 3 more. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 5. Whether they're taking that time, what we do? I wasn't good in math either. And now you done told kids as early as 2nd grade to put a fear in their mind about math. Knowing that there's no way you're going to ever have good careers and not understand math, not understand science. You gotta have those. And you telling kids as early as 2nd and 3rd grade, I wasn't good in math either, just because you don't want to take the time to explain a simple concept to them. That's the same thing that we doing with politics. We don't want to take the time to learn about politics, to learn about we want to be lazy minded. And then we pass that on to other people. Ain't either one of them doing nothing. And it don't matter. And neither no, we can't afford to think like that now.
We got to teach them about this.
What is that?
The Constitution of the United States of America.
Oh, okay, I see it now. Exactly.
We got to teach them
the
this.
Constitution.
Yeah. That's what they need to have a class on in school instead of the crazy stuff that they teaching them. They need a for real civics class that tells them these are your rights. They are not supposed to be infringed upon at all. These are your God-given rights. As if you being an American, this is what you have to protect you from a tyrannical government. This right here, this is your rights. This is your freedoms. These are your liberties. This right here. Nobody should be able to violate those at all. And we need to teach that.
Teach that. And right now, again, while Donald Trump is talking about dismantling the Department of Education, taking it from the federal and giving it to every state, the state of Illinois needs to interject, just like what you're talking about, a mandatory civics class, and use this as an opportunity to demand that things like all this about homosexuality and transgender stuff, demand that be removed from the correct curriculum, and demand that these things like civics classes, the sciences, trades, and all that, demand that those things come back into education. And instead of tripping off and letting the Democrat Party tell you he's trying to dismantle education, is it a bad idea? Look at our test scores. Look how empty our schools are. Look how dumb our kids have been. And you want to be mad that somebody is saying, stop the brakes, pump the brakes, let's start all over again.
Yeah.
And let the state sit down and with their local school boards and say what should be in the curriculum, rather than letting federal law tell you that you got to have a boy in a girl's bathroom. But you can't understand that. You don't want to understand that, because that's going to mean that you can't be politically lazy.
Facts. You hit everything right there. But sister, I'm not going to take up no more of your time. We've been on here for 2 hours. Can you believe that?
Oh,
we just went for 2 hours and a great discussion. The comments is lit up with love for you. I don't know if you see that, but everybody loves you here.
Thank you.
Yo, I love you to death. Jessica, let me tell you something. You inspire me and you teach me, and learning about the way that you grew up, to me, that's the most interesting thing. It's the most brilliant thing, really, because you grew up in a different time and you have a different message than people that I know. Well, how old do you say you was, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 62. No, I'm 62.
That's crazy because you don't look 62. But
Well,
to know
black
that
men
you,
don't.
I'm telling you, hey, we're gonna be young forever, you know? Uh, but real talk, like you have a different view, you know, and what you're doing, I feel, is so powerful in Chicago. You and everybody that's along with you in this journey is powerful. And I believe that y'all are gonna help create a whole different breed of people in Chicago, man. You're gonna help change the spirit over there in Chicago and get people moving in a better direction, you know, as far as who they voting for and why, you know. But hopefully we can dig even deeper into that and teach them to have more love for their brothers and their sisters before everything else, just to have more love for life, because that's the most tragic thing, is the loss of life that happens all the time. And I can't say nothing. I used to contribute to it on the east side of Chicago. You know what I mean? I was a very bad game banger at one point in time.
Oh,
So
my phone's getting ready to die out. Wait a
Go
minute, my
ahead,
phone's
sister.
getting ready to die out.
Go ahead. Look, I love you. Thank you for being on with me. And I know she don't do social media, everybody, so you can't follow her, but she gonna be on here with me more. I promise you that.
Yes, yes, and we're going to take questions from the audience next time.
Okay, let's do that. That's matter of
Let's
fact,
do
that's
that.
the next show. That's the next show. Me and you gonna take questions from the audience and let them get to know you better, and you give them your take because it's a brilliant take. And I love you for it. I appreciate you, sister.
Love you too. Let's talk, Cash.
All right. All right, y'all.
Have a good afternoon.
Peace out.
Bye.
All right, y'all. I'm about to get up out of here myself. That was very productive. Very productive. I love that type of conversation, and that's the conversations that I feel we need to be having more. It's deep. It's real deep, man. All of these different issues, and then hearing about Chicago and how Chicago used to be from somebody that lived it, and how it was loving, you know. She used to have fun in Chicago. You didn't have to worry about losing your life in Chicago. And it's still that way in some places. I mean, it's like that. It's not like all the communities in Chicago is plagued with violence or anything like that, but it's a lot more than it ever was, is the problem. And I feel like, man, we headed in a direction, like I say, for me, and this is just my take, my opinion. I feel that people need to take more of a deeper hold in being proud to be American. You know, I know a lot of bad things happened in the past. I know all about slavery. I know all the history of it. I know about the lynchings. I know about Jim Crow. I know about the black codes. You know, I know about all of that. I get it. But doesn't that just add more to the testimony of America to say, yo, it's like the redemption story on a national level. This nation was one that enslaved people, whether they was black, Irish, Scottish, English, whatever, you know, because there was a lot of slavery, Indian. And to see where we are now, to where it doesn't matter about what color you are, you're equal. You're equal in this country, and you have the opportunity to rise as high as you can, as high as you can climb. You know what I'm saying? I don't accept that ideology that says you're black so you can only go this high. That is a lie that has come from, in my opinion, from racist politicians on both sides, racist pastors on both sides, racist will tell you you can only do this much because you're black. And in the same sense, don't trust white people because they're racist. That came from a racist that's trying to keep a divide going between people. I know a lot of white people. I know a lot of Mexican or brown people. I'm not going to say Mexican because if you were born here, you're an American. You know what I'm saying? I know a lot of black people. I know a lot of all people. I like people. And I don't see racism in them. Now, do we all have a moment in time where we might say something crazy? Of course, just because of how we were raised. You probably got parents that said certain words sometimes when they was angry and you picked up on it, but you can re-educate yourself to not do those things. You know, it doesn't mean, I'm not saying that you're a racist because of it. You just had a moment. No, I'm being funny. But in all seriousness, man, we got to come together. Man. I care about Chicago. I care about Detroit. I care about the trailer park. I care about all American communities that are suffering. I care about all American communities that are in poverty. I care about the plight of every American that is being deprived of the same rights and privileges that they just gave to a whole bunch of illegals in our country, because we know that they can do it now. We know what you can do for the American people now. We know. There's no excuse. So I want to hold them accountable. And in the meantime, in between time of that, street lights. We doing what we can for the youth. And that comes by way of you. I believe it's Christine. I got to call her back. She donated $200 to adopt a kid right out here for the YMCA. So I'm going to call her back when I get off here, but I want to acknowledge her right now on this live. I believe that's her name. Christine or Christine. That's Christine, I believe. Donated that. So thank you for that. But that's what it takes, y'all. It takes all of us to take action. We could complain to the politicians, and we definitely should, and we definitely should hold them accountable. But at the same time, we have to take action. Each one of us, regardless of your color, where you grew up, how you were raised. The change starts when you decide that it's time to make the change. All right? You can't blame nobody but yourself if you don't decide to make the change to start taking action. We have to take action. You want to fix the communities, take some action to fix the communities. If you feel like it doesn't affect you because you live somewhere that's beautiful and you're in a gated community, I just want you to know it can still affect you. It can affect you. Maybe not immediately, but you never know. You might have a kid one day that's going through a community. They got a friend or somewhere that's not where you live at, and then something bad happens because nobody cared about that community, but he met a good friend inside of there who was a good kid that really wanted to try to get out that community, and something goes crazy, you know, and things happen. There's too many stories like that does happen. A kid that ain't never been to the ghetto goes to the ghetto because he don't listen to a rap video and say, yo, I want to go and hang out over here, gang, gang, you know what I'm saying? And then boom, something happens to that kid. And then you're like, I never thought that this would affect me. That's the way it can affect you, you know? So let's help to build a better future, man, by helping out these kids. That's my main goal. That's my number one main goal, is try to fix the communities as best as I can with whatever I can do. Right now, I got a platform, so I use it to promote street lights and try to bring some awareness to these things, have these kind of discussions. So yeah, if y'all want to donate, the link is there on the Facebook. You guys have the link in the chat for YouTube. Do that. Let's get some kids into the Y. It's got a lot of programs there. But beyond that, America, unite. Don't fight. Be a street light, because only you can be the change you wish to see in the world. And when you get too stressed out, you got to remember to pray, America, because without God, everything falls apart. Shout out to Jessica Jackson once again. God, I wish she had social media, because I would live on her page. That woman is phenomenal. Like God's spirit just pouring out of her. Straight up, I honest to God believe that woman is anointed. She's got a gift. I love it. And I can't wait to bring her back on. All right. So if you haven't already, please like the video, share the video, hit that subscribe button, and ring the bell so you get all the notifications to whenever I upload a video or go live. I appreciate you guys. God bless you. I'm gone.